All right, we are back with Donald J. Trump. We're outside of beautiful Des Moines, Iowa for the hour. We will be taking questions from the audience. And tonight, as the 2024 race heats up, President Trump and other Republican candidates are now crisscrossing the state. And, of course, the former president has a commanding lead in both Iowa and nationally. The GOP field, though, is growing. Last week, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis threw his hat in the ring, and soon we expect that former Vice President Mike Pence will be in. Anti-Trump zealot Christie will join in. But can anyone close the gap? Let's talk about what I guess we're up to 9 people after next week.
That's a good thing, isn't it? I think pretty good. But I don't think it matters. I don't know why people are doing it. They're at 1%. Some are at 0. I hear Chris Christie's coming in. He was at 6% in New Jersey, which is, I love New Jersey, but 6% approval rating in New Jersey. What's the purpose? And he's polling at 0. And others are, I call him Ada Hutchinson. I don't call him Asa. I call him Ada Hutchinson. I gave him a little name for some reason, for certain reasons. But this guy, nobody knows who the hell he is. Never good. And some, it's fine, but I don't understand what they're doing. Now, maybe there's something wrong, but when you're at 1% or less, 1%, it says 1% with an arrow pointing left. There's one guy who's at 0 with an arrow pointing left. That means he's at less than 0. So it is what it is. I really go after the one who's second, and I think the one who's second is going down so much and so rapidly that I don't think he's going to be second that much longer. I think he's going to be third or fourth. He had a very bad day today. He got very angry at the press. You're not allowed to get angry at the press.
Let me.
At the fake news, he got angry.
So you probably became in history the most investigated president of all time.
Times 10.
Okay. So.
But if my poll numbers went down, it would all end. Every time my poll goes up, I say, oh, this is a problem. But we had a poll today that showed I was 44 points above number 2 and beating Biden by 11 points. Beating Biden by 11 points and beating Biden by 15 and 16 points in some of them. And he's not doing well against Biden.
Let me ask you, because you are...
Because we can't take a chance of this election.
I think a lot of people agree with that. I don't think things have been as bad, turned so badly so quickly. The third issue is there's a special counsel that's appointed, and news broke yesterday that there might be a tape recording that, quote, where you acknowledge that you understood that these were classified documents. First of all, do you know who this call may be with? Do you know anything about it?
No, I don't know anything about it. All I know is this. Everything I did was right. We have the Presidential Records Act, which I abided by 100%. Biden has 1,850 boxes with a lot of classified stuff that he's not supposed to have. In his case, I have the right to declassify as president. He's got 1,850 boxes that he doesn't want anyone to see. He had 7 or 8 boxes in Chinatown in Washington, D.C., where nobody even speaks English in Chinatown. Chinatown is it's in favor of China. And he has boxes in Chinatown. They took those boxes and they sent them to Boston to his lawyer so his lawyer could look through them and probably do things that you're not supposed to do. No, this is about election interference. And, in fact, I have to tell you, Dershowitz and a couple of very good guys wrote an article today. The Tobacco King, you know who the Tobacco King, he did a great job on the tobacco companies. They wrote an article today that this is a disgrace that they're even looking at this stuff. There was nothing done wrong, nothing whatsoever. Now, look at the boxes with Biden, where they're in his garage. They're all over the floor. They're sitting under his Corvette with the grease and everything else on a garage door that you could cut with a scissor, and no Secret Service. I have Secret Service all over the place. Mar-a-Lago is a fort. It's literally, she built that as the Southern White House. But when you look at it, and it's another... it's a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. It's a hoax. And it has to do more than anything else with trying to interfere with the election. And let me tell you, DOJ actually you talk about Bragg, the DA of New York. I never thought I'd be dealing with a guy like this. You talk about Bragg. The DOJ in Washington put his top guy into the DA's office, which is local, which is city, state. But they put the top guy in the Justice Department into that office to make sure Trump gets in trouble. Can you believe it? It's never, ever happened before. And then Hillary Clinton's lawyer from, I guess it's Paul Weiss, left Paul Weiss to work in the prosecutor's office because he hates Trump and he wants to get Trump. And then nobody wanted to do anything because they say, you know, Trump didn't do anything wrong, including Bragg originally said Trump didn't do anything wrong. And then he prosecutes for what he said was not wrong. But they took this guy, and they put him in there, and he left the firm and he went in. It's a big, Pomerantz, Mark Pomerantz. And he left to become a prosecutor. He was a Democrat lawyer, and now he's trying to prosecute me. And then what happened is they wouldn't do what he wanted to do because it was too bad even for them. So this guy left and he writes a book during the process. They tell me what he did is criminal. They tell me. Now let's see what happens. But he's in a lot of trouble. So here's a prosecutor left and he wrote a book during the prosecution. But I've been going through this for 7 years. Russia, all of it. The Mueller report, which was no collusion. After 2.5 years, there was no collusion with Russia. I was the worst thing. Putin would say, you know, they say you like me. He said, you are the worst guy that we've ever had to deal with. I'm the one that stopped the pipeline, the big pipeline going up to Germany. I stopped it. When Biden came in, it's called Nord Stream 2. When Nord Stream 2, nobody ever heard of it until I came along. I said, you're allowing Russia to build a pipeline through Europe? I stopped it. It was stopped dead. And then the election came about. And Biden came in. One of the first things he did was allow Russia to complete the pipeline. I had it stopped. And then they say, I'll tell you what, they're a party of disinformation. They'll say Trump is soft on Russia. I'm the hardest on Russia that there's ever been. The sanctions we did, everything else. And I got along with Putin.
Let me follow up.
And by the way, the hardest on China by a factor. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. And as I said, no other president ever took in 10 cents. And you know what? China respected us. And President Xi respected your president. And he didn't want to have any more tariffs. And he didn't want to have any more sanctions. But he respected us. And now he doesn't respect. They don't even return phone calls.
You know, abortion now is back as a real campaign issue. Yeah. And then issues I didn't think when I started my radio career in 1987 I'd be talking a lot about, but education, kids, gender identity classes, CRT. I never thought we'd really have this deep debate about whether or not biological men could be playing in women's sports.
So crazy.
On all of these issues, you know, what is the best way that you see to settle?
Well, I did something that nobody thought was possible. I got rid of Roe v. Wade. And by doing that, it put pro-lifers in a very strong negotiating position. Now they're negotiating different things. And, you know, I happen to be of the Ronald Reagan school in terms of exemptions where you have the life of the mother, rape, and incest,
mother's life.
So you have that. And I think, you know, for me, that's something that works very well. And for probably 85%, because don't forget, we do have to win elections. But I did something that nobody could do. And I also made them the radicals because they are willing and able to kill babies in the 9th month. They're willing to kill babies. That's radical. Pro-life isn't radical. They've made pro-life radical, the other side. Pro-life is not radical. What's radical is killing a baby in the 8th month, the 7th month, the 9th month, or even the babies after the baby's born. And, you know, unfortunately, we have a lot of politicians, and you saw that in the midterms. I think it was a big factor that didn't really know how to talk about what we did with Roe v. Wade and what we did on pro-life. They didn't know how to talk about it, and it energized the Democrats, and they used that. I mean, they used that as a commercial. You wouldn't believe it.
Well, what should the Republican
especially when you didn't have
be?
the exceptions. When you didn't have the exceptions, they went after the people like viciously. The ads, and those people did not, generally speaking, they didn't do very well in terms of election. But when you have the exceptions and you go through the whole gamut, it's something that's an incredible thing. But one thing it really did, though, Sean, is it gave people that are pro-life a great power to negotiate. We had no power to negotiate because you had Roe v. Wade sitting in there where you could do anything, where the other side could do anything. They can't do that right now. So we're in a great position to negotiate something really, really good. And most people, I think, really respect what we did. Now, I will say every once in a while I'll watch somebody say, I did more for abortion on abortion and abortion rights and pro-life. I did more than Trump. Well, only stupid people would say that, because everyone said there was no way that Roe v. Wade was going to disappear. But because it was very unfair. The other thing is people wanted to bring it back to the states. I consider that less important, but nevertheless, a lot of people wanted to bring it back. This brings it back to the states.
More with Donald Trump, and we'll hear from our IO audience.